I have
Yeah.
a question for you, Benson. The police obviously have a perception about drug abusers. What was the relationship between you and the police when you were like in the streets and abusing drugs?
Well, I wasn't necessarily like in the streets. I wasn't a street kid. I wasn't hard out in the streets like that.
Okay.
My relationship with the cops is basically like mental health sort of stuff. And but they definitely, uh, how do I say without like sort of making myself sound, um, look, there's different there's different commands of different areas of police, different of areas that know you, that in your local area, and you become known. You do you And if you say you're not, then you're stupid, because you're going to the same spots. You're going, you're mixing with the same crowds that are, known to police, and you will eventually become known. Um, but I think they know who's doing bad things, and they will go for that. Like it's like they know who you are, they know what you're doing, but so long as, I think personally, so long as you're not like hurting anyone, so long as you're not like doing like bad, like robberies, bad crimes, they'll just know that you're just a drug user. And if you get caught, I guess it's the luck of the draw, really. I mean, or you're selling drugs like significantly, and they know that, and it'll take time for them to get to that point where it's like, okay, they're going to pin you for something, and if they don't like you, they'll get you for something else, or they'll go the mental health route. So they'll rock up to your house and they'll take you away mental health wise.
Hmm.
That's been my experience with it, and that's happened multiple times. Yeah, which is it's traumatic. I think the last encounter was, I finally got my own rental, and I finally had my own place to stay, and I had like a sort of psychotic sort of episode, and they just rocked up, like three or four of them just rocked up, and they said they knew me by my first name, and they said, "Oh, any this drug or that drug tonight, Vincent?" And I said, "No, no, no." And I just did, about 2 months in a psychiatric hospital, and I got out, I got back on my own feet, and they just rocked up, and then it got to the point where like they wouldn't leave. They would just keep asking, but they would not leave, and they were in the house, they were walking around, they were looking, they were just, and long story short is I lost the rental, I lost the position, I lost my place, I had to move out because of the report. But it got to the point of where it got to the point where it's like, okay, we're going back to the hospital, aren't we? Because the ambulance rocked up and they put their gloves on and they're walking past the door and you see the needle and you're like, oh, here we go again, and I just got to the point where I get to the point where it's just like, all right, we're going then. So you put your shoes on and I remember I just jumped to the ground and resisting arrest, basically. Like, you're
Well,
gonna take me, you're taking me, and then there's three or four of them on you, and the ambulance is there with their jabbing you with the needle, and then next minute you're back in the hospital, and you haven't even done anything wrong. I mean,
wow, that so completely against your will. I don't know what's your take, guys, on that. Like to me, it's almost like one unjustified if you didn't do anything.
yeah, it's because of my history of mental health, and because the first big is because 6-7 years ago I had a Xanax withdrawal seizure. So I had what's called a tonic clonic withdrawal seizure. So
Mhm.
I basically died in my mum's I was going blue in my mum's arms. She called the ambulance, and I came out of the seizure. You come when you have those types of seizures, you come out either violent or confused and not knowing. And I came out of mine very violent, and I actually attacked officers and ambulance without even knowing. I don't remember. Um, and that was the beginning of, I think, the red flags, especially in New South Wales. In Australia, so a different state. So like New South Wales doesn't communicate with Queensland, if that makes sense. So if you're
Yeah.
flagged for something in New South Wales, they won't necessarily know about it in Queensland. But the beginning for me, the flagging for me of mental health, and because of my size too, I am quite tall. I'm not like necessarily that skinny. Um, yeah, I came out violent, and I attacked them because I didn't know, and then it progresses to further things of like resisting arrest, and then that's another flag. And then how is anyone supposed to react when there's like 4 or 5 men on you with their knees on you, and then the paramedics with needles and stuff, putting gloves on. I mean, even in hospitals, when they come in, through the doors of your room, they come in with 10 to 12 nurses, and they have the needle ready, like, and there's no. Yeah, when it happens, like when you've like for me, it's happened like half a dozen times, 6 to 8 times. You know, even remember when I was talking about the rental, when I lost the rental
Yes.
and stuff like that. They put me in a after what they did. They put me in a bed where I was strapped, like a restrained bed, strapped for 4 hours under police supervision. You know, in one time. You know, where you when I'm even trying to bite like the straps to get out, and you know, and the police are standing there. It is traumatic in a sense, you know, because I'm scared I'm scared of them. I'm concerned if they get called, if something happens, I know the drill. You know what I mean. I know what's going to happen. I know there's force. I know there's needles. I know there's, you know what I mean. And you see it in the news and stuff, like guys losing the plot, running down the street with knives and just get shot or tasered. You know, that's the reality of it. Once you get into I guess there's two sides to it. You go the crime side where like you're consistently getting locked up and tasered and going to jail, or then there's the mental health side where it's like you're renowned for mental health, and depending on your size and your history, it's like it's it's like it's like, for example, last time I was in there was this one nurse, for example, the 10 of them in the room coming in the room, and they're like, one of them was just clicking, one of them was just doing a click just to see how you react, and you like you sort of lose faith. Not faith, but like, is that right? You
Hmm.
know, they're trying to trigger you, or see what triggers you to give you the help. uh, you can't really, can you really say throwing someone in a hospital and then just feeding them pills and watch them walk, is that, and then just releasing them? It's not really help, is it? Like um, if you guys know
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's against your consent too, because for
Oh
example,
yeah,
here in the U.S., we don't have, you know, like asylums anymore. We don't have like and you can see, like, for example, in order for somebody to be intervene in mental health and a mental health special care, it has to have at least a family member consent if that person can't do it for themselves. But it seems
nah,
like they abducted you, literally.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a
It's
kidnap from a movie. Like, get Benson. Like, it's crazy. But, guys, I'll let you come in with whatever you think and questions.
It's hard too because when you had your rental, like for you, that was a fresh new start. And because they
yeah,
knew your history, it was kind of like you were already in the wrong. And I don't think that that's right. I feel like they have to at least have a sense of hope that, hey, like he's doing well and not just like totally sabotage your recovery because that is traumatic. And then you
yeah,
just said because of that, that was the result of you losing the rental. So it's kind of like how can they assist like people in recovery, like not just by going off of their history and their addiction history, but to like not be the cause of them losing like everything that they've worked so hard for, and I can't even imagine what that feels like to have like five men on your back and you don't know what's going on and they have their knees in you, and it is very very scary. And I feel like we can't forget that people who struggle with addiction, they have dignity and they are people, and like that could be like our brother, our our fellow, our uncles. Like we have to treat them with respect. And I think like sometimes like it goes out the window just because they're like, oh
yeah.
well, they're struggling. So thank you for sharing that. That was so vulnerable, and I just want to like acknowledge, like, thank you for
No,
for
it's fun.
yeah.
It, and the sad thing is like that's a rental. That was a private rental. So I
Yeah.
got into it with banks that it wasn't public housing,
Yeah.
and that is the problem. I think the next step, if you don't have a place to live, is you have to be homeless. You have to go through public housing system, finding a place. And I think you get two options. You get offered two options in Australia. And if you knock them back, or two or three options for your public housing, I think, and you get put in places that are not so great. And it's just a repeating cycle. And the system does really, really lack here in Australia. Um, and ironically, which sucks, is I got blacklisted from the real estate agents because of what happened. So
It's almost like a
yeah,
revolving door, right? Like, they, instead of pushing you out of the harmful environment, it's almost like the system pulls you back, wants to pull you back where there's more of that environment. And it
yeah,
makes complete no sense, right? Because at the end of the day, like, that's what I was concerned about the program, right? Because the program is to get you out, to get you back in, to curve you back in. That's not a successful, I would say, program. Um,
no,
and also, in order to overcome this, there's a lot of finances that has to come with it, because it's not only about word of mouth. It's not only about, like, hey, let me motivate you, Benson. No, it's about, like, showing up, investing, right? But at
yeah,
the same time, investment in also finance.
yeah,
Because, for example, when you're overcoming addiction and trying to control and cope with your new environment, right? You also have to start eating healthier. Why?
yeah,
Because your body's gonna. You're working out now. Your body, little by little, is gonna start saying, "I don't want food. I need nutrients, because my
yeah,
brain needs nutrients." Why? Because the chemicals that I had for all these years, little by little, have to get out of my system. And how you do
yeah,
that? Nutrients. eating healthy. Here in the U.S., eating healthy is more costly than eating junk food.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, I don't know how it is in Australia, but
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like there needs to be also the finances to support a very good overcoming drug abuse system, right? I don't know. I'll
yeah.
let the guys continue. I'm sorry, guys, that I interrupted you, but it was fascinating what he was saying. It's like they push you out to bring you back in. It makes no sense.
Yeah. And
So,
I was fortunate. I was fortunate enough to be able to come home to my mum's to live at my home. I'm very fortunate for that. And if I didn't have that, it would be the same story as what it would have been uh, in previous times where I couldn't come home. And you're in the system then, and the system is basically it's a process of, they call it link to home, like they call it link to home, so you get like a short amount of stay, x amount of days in like a hotel place, and then you start the process of public housing, and but then there's a lot of homelessness in between that, and couch surfing and finding your feet by yourself. It's a very hard system, especially if you are addicted. It's almost as like if once you're in there, once you're doing it, if you are hooked on hard drugs and doing hard drugs, it's very hard to manage it. Really, I mean, you're going to get unwell.
I can also imagine going like through the withdrawal phases as well, like have like the Xanax seizure, like that's a hard one too, because it's like you're off the drug, but then in the eyes of somebody who doesn't know what exactly what that seizure looks like you're overdosing on a drug, and
Yeah,
then you get like the ambulance over. It's like this is just a reaction from me not taking the drug, right? And it's just my body acting in this type of way for that. And that's hard too, because then when you wake up from it and you have everybody like you either way, like you said, you either wake up confused or in a panic. And
well, yes. Well, you see, I woke up for the way that I did, but I actually I woke up in ICU 3 days later with a tube down my throat, and
Oh man.
yeah, and a catheter, and I woke up and mum was just next to me. My mum was just by my side, but I woke up 2 days later. They had to sedate me that much. That's where I woke up, in the hospital with like a tube like that big down my throat. Um, yeah, and I was in the place for 2 days prior to waking up, and this was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I still continued to abuse the stuff. But I was in the place where before ICU, where it's just defibrillators and black room. So in that room it's like you're like, is he going to live? Is that you're dead? You're not. You're on life support. They're forcing oxygen into you. You know what I mean? And then you go to ICU once you become a little more stable. And so not only was it traumatic for me, but it's traumatic for my mum. Like
yeah,
seeing me there with all these tubes attached to me and cords, you know, and she'll live with that too. But she knows. I just can't imagine is how hard it is for her to not only did she witness the whole seizure, but then she had to witness me in the hospital on tubes and cords. You know, yeah, I'm sure you can imagine.
Did she ever tell you